One moment, please. Great, got it. No, maybe I'll just go here. I know I'm feeling the pressure, man.
I'm feeling the pressure. Imagining myself.
I need a few minutes to open all this stuff up before I start.
Come on.
I know. Board meeting today, agenda. Okay. Welcome to this January 17th regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Trustees. The board met in closed session and took no reportable action. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
So moved.
Second.
Student board members, preferential vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, okay. Agenda order adopted. Let's start with our student board member reports.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel, and I'm the gun student board rep, and I'm here to talk a little bit about gun activities. But before I do, during winter break, Johanna and I decided to have matching MacBook cases and keyboard covers. So, just very cute. Shows school unity, I think. Anyways, yeah, that was just a little fun thing that we did. But yeah, so after our winter break, gun admin implemented a hall pass system for any students that want to leave the classroom to go to the restroom. This is a new policy to prevent students from skipping class or leaving school. It is also an exciting time for seniors. Senior portrait deadlines have just passed, and the yearbook is now polling for superlatives and senior quotes. So basically, superlatives are polls that include, the worst driver of our senior class, most likely to win the lottery but lose the ticket, and so on. And so I think, it's a very fun time for us seniors because we kind of, get to know each other better. Academic-wise, the F equals MA physics test is open for sign-up. Grades from last semester will also be finalized soon, and we have our spring club application due this Friday. Additionally, our Gun Hacks event is this Saturday, where Gun will be hosting a programming hackathon for people to compete for prizes in. Our Game of Throws Juggling Festival is also this weekend. Everyone, including all board members and staff, are invited to come. It is, as Mr. Hall said, one of the biggest juggling festivals of America. So just come and attend workshops and watch our performances. Our debate team has also been doing very well. One of the public forum teams won at one of the John Lewis tournaments, and we have also started training for middle and high schoolers. Construction-wise, Gun has seen a delay because of the weather, but we'll start installing electrical lines starting this week. We have also replaced our old marquee at the front of our school to a newer one that has many cool functions like displaying the weather through cute animations. So thank you to our previous classes at Gun for funding for the marquee. Lastly, all of our sports teams, including Gun Girls Soccer, Boys Basketball, and Girls Basketball have also started their semester openers and have been keeping up with their good results.
Awesome, thank you so much. Hello, it's glad to be back after the break. With the start of the semester, Pally is returning to its usual activity as well as gearing up for our upcoming events. Our first day of school started out slightly chaotic as we had rain and a fire alarm disrupting our brunch time. And seniors, of course, came in their camo attire per tradition. ASB is preparing this week for our winter rally, which will be during our extended lunch on Wednesday, January 25th. The rally will feature performances from dance, cheer, and band, a senior versus staff basketball game, and our highly anticipated prom location reveal video. We are also planning Love Week, which will be from February 6th to 10th. During Love Week, ASB sells Valograms, which are packages with small stuffed animals and Fun Dip, and puts on a variety of Valentine's-themed events throughout the week. Class councils met last week and will continue to meet this week to discuss upcoming great events, like the Gun Pally Junior Movie Night, which will be this Friday, where students from both schools will come together to watch the movies Knives Out. Our second semester club charter cycle has started as well, and our Vice President Felicia has been working really hard to collect and review these applications in preparation for our club day, which will be in early February. Our RISE Club is hosting a consent education workshop for 9th and 10th graders in early February, with signups to upperclassmen students to lead discussion groups out right now. Over our winter break, Pali-Scioli students attended Mira Loma Invitational, and speech and debaters attended the ASU Invitational all the way in Arizona from January 6th to 8th. And we also had the MLK Invitational just this weekend. Pali Theater's Mamma Mia has started their rehearsals, and build and paint for the sets have begun. Pali's instrumental concert will be next Friday on the 26th, and all VAPA departments are preparing for our annual Art in Unusual Places, which will start in late January and is a ton of fun. For sports, our spring activities of track, badminton, tennis, and swimming will be starting out on January 30th. And lastly, I want to give a special shout out to our Pali cheer team who took home the CCS championship on Saturday, the 14th. So congrats to Pali cheer.
Great, thank you both so much. Dr. Austin, Superintendent's report.
Yeah, I just have a couple thank yous. I came home from being gone for a couple weeks during the break and discovered I have a leak in my roof. And I know that because my carpet was wet. And just think about that when you own a house or you live wherever you live and it rains a lot, you cross your fingers that what you think you know is true, and you hope you don't find those leaks and things, but sometimes you do. And so I have one I have to deal with. The same is true of our schools. We received a tremendous amount of rain in really short periods of time. And we found some leaks, but what we also found is a lot of preparation work on the front end. Our staff did not sit back and act surprised when it rained. Now, some of the leaks that we found, surprises. But the staff that was here over the break just did amazing work and responded quickly. We had some flooding. We also missed some flooding because our staff did sandbagging in places where we could predict some things. Nobody was predicting the creek near Duvenick was going to overflow. That caught us by surprise. That being said, we still had sandbags in place in parts of Duvenick, and we're able to get everything cleaned up. So, thank you to all of our PAUSD employees who did so much work during that time. Also, thank you to the city and the city staff. Not only were they out clearing these issues, they were fantastic about being in communication with us throughout, including the monitoring levels of the creeks, telling us if it was going up, down. It was funny. It's not an area where I'm expert, but what I did not anticipate is they said sometimes the creek rose hours after it had stopped raining. So you're looking around, you're like, oh, good, we're in good shape now. Not so much. But by the end, not only were they telling us what the monitor levels were, they talked to us about what was staged at the creeks as far as ability to clear debris and excavate if they had to. So it was really, we came out of that's pretty good. But I appreciate everybody's efforts. It was not an accident. Next, I just wanted to foreshadow that had a very meaningful meeting with members of the city staff, City of Palo Alto, regarding Coverly last Friday, and we have some ideas about how to start moving that along again. And I anticipate writing in my update this Friday some of the challenges that we have with Coverly. The city staff and I both agree that for the average person looking at this, it doesn't look that complicated. Why aren't we just working together and getting it done? We're going to explain how Coverly is not a series of buildings, but how Coverly is a system. And the majority of the system is things that you don't see or know about and just take for granted. And so we're going to talk about that. We also have a lease that's coming up, not too far off in the future. And the city has expressed a desire to acquire more of Coverly. We're going to talk about that. The last I have to say on that, because it's not agendized for tonight, is the city. We've asked the city to ultimately, once we go through a series of meetings, to make the proposals to us so that we aren't proposing things to the city. If the city wants the property and wants to work together, we've asked that they make the proposals and that this body, who is actually the owner of the property, considers each proposal. It seems to make more business sense, and I think we have agreement on that. But all to say, expect to start hearing more about Coverly as we transition into the second semester. Thank you.
Well, you took one of my thanks at the end of my meeting, but that's okay. I can still thank them later myself. On to open forum, and I think we have one open forum comment. It's on Zoom, and it's Erwin Morton. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Morton.
Yes. Hi.
Perfect.
Sorry, it took me a moment to get in there.
I understand.
My name is Erwin Morton. I'm on the executive board of the PTA Council. Council has been active on the vaping problem for a number of years at multiple levels, working within our schools and also working with the school board, the city councils for Palo Alto and other local cities, the County Board of Supervisors, the County Department of Public Health, state and national PTA, and our state legislators. In January 2020, we held a community leaders breakfast to inform the community, and especially the leaders, about the vaping epidemic and the work that was being done to protect our kids. We believe it is now time to bring the community together again, to bring ourselves up to date on 3 years of changes in policy, enforcement, and technology, and in general on how the landscape has evolved. So on Thursday of next week, that's January 26th, we are holding our second community leaders breakfast. The event will run from 8:30 to 11 at Mitchell Park Community Center. Thanks to generous support from the city and from the County Board of Supervisors, the event is free and open to all. We have a number of excellent speakers from the California Department of Public Health, the County Department of Public Health, Stanford, and UCLA, as well as former Senator Jerry Hill and County Supervisor Joe Simidian, and some former and current PAUSD students. Santa Clara County and Palo Alto in particular have been leaders in fighting this scourge. Our goal here is to review the progress that has been made and to discuss the challenges ahead. It will be informative and engaging, and we hope that some of you, and this invitation is for the board and your audience, we hope some of you will be able to join us Thursday of next week. Thank you.
Well, that was perfect timing. And I think just to make one note on that, I think you all got the email from me that Mr. Morton forwarded to me. That is on my calendar, and I hope some of you will be able to join for that event. Okay, that is it for open forum. So next we're moving on to the consent calendar. These items are considered routine and will be approved in one action without discussion. If a board member requests an item to be removed from the calendar or a citizen wishes to speak to an item, it will be considered under action items afterwards. Does anyone have a motion on the consent calendar?
I move the consent calendar as presented.
A second.
I second the motion.
Okay, student board members,
Aye.
Aye.
colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Cooking on down. It's a long consent calendar. Okay, we're moving on to item 5A, the proposed housing at 231 Grant Avenue.
I have
Dr.
that
Austin.
for us tonight.
Great.
This is, I'm not sure how many times we've brought it back now, but this is the final version. It's just a couple thank yous. Again, to everyone who's put their hands on this item. It has been a long time coming from an idea to working it through. Again, we have been all in on it from the beginning, but because it is unprecedented, this entire arrangement, there were challenges that we had to work through. But at no time did we waver in the support of something that we think can really be helpful and beneficial to our employees. I'd like to thank both of our union presidents, Ms. Steiner and Ms. Baldwin, for their leadership and support. And even before my arrival to the district 5 years ago, they were attending meetings about housing. I'd like to thank everyone from Adobe and Mercy for their work. They've been very responsive throughout, although I'm sure we're more than a little frustrated with some of the back and forth that was necessary, and I really appreciate their work. County Council was instrumental in getting some of the last changes through for us. And I would say in every step in the way, the County Council did their best to clear barriers for us in a way that, honestly, I didn't know if that would be the approach or not. But we're very thankful for them. And then finally, before I turn this over, I'd like to thank Supervisor Simidian for having the original idea and for securing the land, which in this region is the biggest hurdle. And I'd like to thank the board for being patient as we work through this, not pushing for this to go faster than we could make it go, but for expressing your desire that we move forward with this. So you have before you tonight an item. I will explain one piece of the background information. Our staff recommendation is that we fund 29 units using general fund dollars for $1.45 million, the equivalent of $50,000 per unit. There is still some discussion about the use of bond funds, that may be inappropriate. Right now, we do not have a yes on that, but we may reach a yes. The suggestion here is that if we receive a yes, that bond funds are eligible, that we would bring it back to the board to consider making the switch, not that it would be an automatic unless you come up with a motion that makes that so, okay? So that is our staff recommendation. I just wanted to point to that one piece. That was our thought there, that instead of holding it up to wait for more work on the bond question, we could move forward with general fund, which we do have set aside and budgeted. And if we want to consider a change once we get a green light, then we can do that. That is all I have for tonight. Happy to take questions.
Great, thank you so much. For this item, we have one public comment. It is Terry Baldwin in person.
Thank you. Hi, Terry Baldwin, President of the Palo Alto Educators Association. I just wanted to thank also Mercy Housing and Abode and Supervisor Simidian for this project. As I said before, I've been a part of it for many, many years, advocating for it. And I'd like to thank the district and the board for hopefully approving this. It sounds like that's what's happening next. This is really invaluable for some of our teachers, especially our newer teachers. And I know, having lived close to Palo Alto, it's great to be part of the community. And a lot of our teachers can't do that because they have to travel for so far away for a huge commute time. So they have to leave right away and can't be a part of the community. And it's been great to be a part of this community. So thank you for this. And I just can't wait for it to get done. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Colleagues, comments or questions for Dr. Austin or for the plethora of people we have here that may be able to answer a question, as if we have any questions left.
I just have a quick comment. I think we've talked this to death. I have no desire to say anything else other than to say I am very relieved and grateful to finally be voting on this. I feel like we should stand up and do a happy dance or something.
Maybe later.
Yeah, exactly. And as for the bond funding, I appreciate that clarification, Dr. Austin, and I would be interested in having that come back to the board purely because we are a school district that is blessed to have funds, general funds and bond funds. And there are many school districts, as we know, who either can't pass bonds or don't have enough money to buy books, let alone housing. So I think to the extent that we can be a model for both options being possible, I would love to serve as that model. So I'm happy to do a little more of the work with bond counsel to make sure we can have that come to us. So thank you.
Great. Any other comments? No? All right, well, oh, there we go.
Thank you. I agree, there's real merit to this project, and I think Supervisor Simidian and the rest of the team from the county deserve real kudos. I mean, turning a lightly used parking lot into middle-income housing in the middle of a statewide and regional dramatic housing shortage is, I think, a tremendous accomplishment, and my hat's off to them. But I'm going to be voting against this for two specific reasons, as I spoke about at the last meeting, and I'll just summarize them briefly. There are meaningful subsidies in this project for school districts, and the purpose of this for school districts is really to increase recruiting ability and to increase staff retention. Our district does not have significant recruiting and retention issues. We have many candidates for most positions and actually had a retirement incentive program in our district about 4 years ago. So it seems important that these subsidies go to the districts that do have recruiting and retention project issues, such as Mountain View, Wisman, and Ravenswood, or that have meaningfully lower compensation for their staff than we do, like Los Altos School District, which pays about, on average, $20,000 less for equivalent experience than we do. But instead, we're getting far more of the subsidized units than they are, 29 units for us versus 12 units for each of them. And there's been no effort made to see if the other districts would actually like more. I've spoken to people at the other districts and asked them if they were aware that more units might be available, and the answer has been, no, we didn't realize that. And you know, it's difficult because they don't really have, that's me calling as an individual. I don't represent Palo Alto School District. We're very clear on that. I'm talking to another board member who just doesn't represent their district either. So they'd have to get it agendized and discuss it and take it back to the county. It's a difficult road to travel. And really, it's up to I think most of us have looked to the county to structure this deal and propose it in a way that's most effective for all. Now, that's wound up with Palo Alto Unified being offered 29 units while other people are offered 12. And there were reasons for that. I mean, the biggest reason is we asked and others didn't. Now, I'm second to nobody in my advocacy for our students and wanting to get the best for us. But I don't think it needs to be at the expense of students in higher need districts. I don't think our benefit shouldn't come at their expense. And the fact that we asked and they didn't, that shouldn't be enough. That, to me, that's not enough of a reason for us to get more and them to get less. They should be offered the opportunity to say, if they want these units, to be able to get them. It seems both suboptimal and basically unfair that the district that has the least need is getting the most subsidy. Second, as Dr. Austin said, at this point, the only way we've been able to find to pay for these units was from our general fund, which is the same funds that we use to pay staff. That's due to the structure of the project, which is set in our discussions with the county. Now, to me, this just seems wrong. I would much rather be using general funds to attract and pay people directly, especially in the hard-to-fill positions such as special education teachers, student aides, bus drivers, high school science teachers. As others have pointed out, the $1.45 million that we're talking about would pay $10,000 signing bonuses for the next 145 new hires in those positions. That would be a truly meaningful impact on our district's hiring. Now, I believe, as others have said, and I believe, as others do, that the project could be structured to enable bond dollars to be used, but the structure that we have at this point does not permit it. So it's possible that these things can be changed. I don't think this has to be the final word on this topic. I mean, they haven't even broken ground on the thing, much less handed out the units. So I think if the county wants to, and I encourage the county to not let this be the end. I understand the pressure to get people signed up. There's escalation in building costs. There's already a deficit in this project. You don't want it to get any worse. You want to get people signed up and get going. But that doesn't mean you have to leave these shortcomings in place, especially if you want this to be a model for other districts or for other projects that are similar to this. So I hope the county will take the initiative to address these concerns with this current project and make it into the model that I think it truly can be for other projects in our region and our state. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Thanks. Student board members, any comments? Okay, just have a few quick ones. I'm thrilled to support this project and that it's finally come. I do want to thank everyone who has worked on this project, from the county to our organizations, our developers, Dr. Austin, our attorneys, county attorneys. Really, it has, as everyone knows, has been a very long time coming. It's taken a lot of effort, and I'm really excited for it to be happening. This is a chance for us to support our staff and get a better sense of really what is helpful, what the needs are. This is sort of a real opportunity for us to have a pilot program kind of and see, wow, how long is our wait list? And is this model the right model for our district and our staff? And how helpful is it? And do the students feel a difference? Do the staff feel a difference? Is the need enough for us to do our own project in the future? And also for, as Ms. Latimerich said, for this to potentially be a model for other districts in the state that really have a retention problem and really have these needs and yet don't have a few $100 million to go build their own housing development. To be able to get access to something like this for such a reasonable amount of money is a huge benefit, and we are very grateful. I think there's a lot of reasons why I'm glad to get as many units as you can give us. This project is in our city. Potentially all of the people that get units in this development will be able to walk or bike to work. That takes more cars off the road. It makes for a much better quality of life for our employees. And we had about 300 staff express interest in this housing, and we're talking 29 units. So no matter how many units we get, it is not going to be nearly the number that there is an interest in, but we're grateful for the ones that we have. So I'm really excited for it, for both our staff, for us, and for as a future model. So I have no questions. I'm excited to vote for it, and I believe we are ready to take a vote, yes. If someone could make a motion, sorry.
I move that we accept the recommendation.
I second.
Okay, student preferential board votes.
Aye.
Aye.
Colleagues, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, passes 4-1. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for your support and patience and answers to our questions. Next, we've got 5B. Dr. Austin?
Yes, I can frame this up for you and explain why this is a standalone item. The CSEA and PAEA and PAMA agreements were all approved earlier this evening on consent. Contracted management by law is not allowed to go on consent. In fact, the terms, anything that deals with finances, need to be read aloud by the board president and then voted on. You will notice that the rest of the agreements were approved earlier at 7% ongoing. These are all 5% ongoing with a 2% one-time off-schedule payment. And just a side note, I fully support the way that the law requires people to read these out. And I will tell you, from being an employee who has their numbers read out, it's not comfortable, but it's a lot more comfortable than some of the people who have taken advantage of school districts and done things in back rooms that led to this rule. So it's a rule that, law that I fully support and explain in great detail to our entire team. So at some point in time when they're superintendents, they will handle this in the same way, seriously, and in a way that covers nothing up. So that is it for me, unless you have questions.
I should read it first, no? And then we will, so I'm going to, as required by law, I'm going to read this out loud. Bear with me a moment. The retroactive payment amount for the proposed increases for 2023, off-schedule payment amount for 2023, and salary compensation beginning July 1st, 2023, for each contracted management position is outlined below. Assistant Superintendent of Education Services Elementary, 22-23, 5% increase to an annual salary, $12,386.05. 2023 2% off-schedule amount is $5,202.14, which means on July 1st, 2023, at step 7, will be $264,008. Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services Secondary, the 2022-23 5% increase to the annual salary will be $10,842.20. The 2022-23 2% off-schedule amount will be $4,553.72, which means July 1st, 2023 will be step 2, $234,517. Assistant Superintendent of Equity and Student Affairs, 2022-23 5% increase to annual salary will be $12,203. 2023 2% off-schedule amount will be $5,125.26. So on July 1st, 2023 will be step 6, $260,107. Our Chief Business Officer, 2022-23 5% increase to the annual salary will be $13,776.25. The 2022-23 2% off-schedule amount will be $5,786.03. And on July 1st, 2023 will be step 5, $297,979. Deputy Superintendent, Chief of Staff, the 2022-23 5% increase to the annual salary will be $14,189.50. The 2023 2% off-schedule amount will be $5,959.59. July 1, 2023, step 6 will be $302,450. Superintendent of Schools, the 2022-23 5% increase to the annual salary will be $17,736.90. The 2022-23 2% off-schedule amount will be $7,449.50. And on July 1st, 2023 will be step 6, $378,062, for a total fiscal impact of $81,133.90 in the coming year. Okay. I think we have no public comment on this item, but let me confirm that. Okay. That's a comment?
No, that's a request for.
Oh, I was like, 2? What? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. First, that was very well read.
Thank you very much.
I know that's.
I didn't even practice it really.
I know that's not easy. So that was. I thought it was quite well done. I'm glad to. That we're passing this item, but I didn't want to pass it without noting that earlier on the consent calendar, we approved without comment the tentative agreements with PAAEA, and the PAA President Baldwin is here today, and with our CSEA. I don't know if, no, Meb is not here. And I think, which I didn't want it to go without passing, since it's, I think, a tremendous, I think they're healthy raises that reflect the economic conditions of both the district and the marketplace. But I also think it is a testimony to the hard work of both bargaining unit leaders and the district leaders to come to an agreement early that seemed to have been amenable on both sides, and really coming to a point, and I see Ms. Baldwin nodding, which is great, that coming to a point where we really have, everybody kind of pulling in the same direction and feeling good about it. So I didn't want that to pass without notice as we vote on this one, because I think it's great that we're getting these done and getting them done so nice and early in the year.
Agree, thank you. Colleagues, anyone else's comments? Okay. Student board members? No. Okay, I echo Mr. Collins' comments. I'm really excited to have approved the bargaining units earlier in the evening at 7%, and that we are able to do that. And all of these are really well-earned, well-deserved, and I feel really lucky that we are able to do it. So, okay, if there are no other comments or questions, can someone make a motion?
I move that we approve as presented.
You don't want to repeat it all?
Second.
Okay, great. Student board members, preferential vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, passes unanimously. Moving on, we have no discussion items tonight, so we're on to staff reports. 7A, our audit report.
Ms. Chow, you have the introductions?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Austin. Tonight for our audit presentation is our auditor, Ms. Joyce Peters. She is a CPA and partner at Eide Bailly, and her focus is primarily in K-12 education as well as county offices of education. So we're very fortunate to have her here. She is going to present the overview of our general financial audit as well as the performance audits for the parcel tax and the two bond measures. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Peters. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Before I started, this year I do want to apologize for the delay of the reports. We really get together, submitted at the last minute, and then that's because we got some of the turnovers and personnel turnover and this shortage of the resources. But I do really want to thank the business departments, their patience with me. And then they was sometimes, before when we go in and audit on the field work, we go in 1 week, 2 weeks, we are done and wrap it up. But because we are on remote, so it's the upload and download and dragging on weeks and weeks, and sometimes they thought it's done, and then we come back with more questions. And Sharon has been very patient with me, so I really want to thank you for the cooperations of the business department. Done with that, the first, I want to present the first one is the financial statement of the Palo Alto School Districts. And this report, it has been approximately 100 pages, so I won't go into the detail. I just pointed to the summary page, which if you want, it's on the page 95. It's the summary of auditor's reports. In this audit, we issue 3 opinions on this report. One is the financial opinion on your financial statements, and the opinions is a modified report, which means that your financial statement is presented fairly in all material respect. During the year, we didn't have any findings on control deficiencies, and we also didn't have material weakness on your report. For the federal awards, we actually, it's also a clean audit. This year, we audit the Education Stabilization Fund and Special Education Cluster as a major fund. We didn't find any exceptions. For the state compliance, we audit all the state compliance listed on page 93. And with all those compliance, we didn't have any exceptions as well. So all the reports on the districts is a clean audit. The report format is very consistent with the prior year, with exception of the last notes, which is the restatement of prior period adjustments, a beginning balance adjustment. That's the results of GASB 87 implementation, and we have to include these receivable and deferred inflow in your book. And that adjustment is $67.5 million to add it to your financial statement. It's on page 69. So if you are interested, you can take a look. That's basic, is the financial statement on your reports. And on the report, with the report, we also enclose a board communication letter. This letter is qualitative aspect of the audit. So it doesn't have numbers, but it talk about if there's a disagreement with management, if there's any corrected or uncorrected misstatements, and also talk about a little bit about our plannings. In this paragraph, there's one is a new things we added in according to the new standards. We have to put it in, tell you about while we are doing the planning of the audit, do we identify any significant risk of the district? This doesn't mean, and then we identify there's a management override of control and improper revenue recognition, the risk of it, but it doesn't mean that the district has it. It's just through the planning, we actually identify it. So when we're doing the audit, we test more samples, and we look more area, and it's more intense on this area. And if there's any things we find, we'll give you a findings. And as a matter that there's no finding on your report, even though we identified the risk, we look more detail of it, but we didn't find any exceptions. The district's control is good. Any questions on the school districts?
I just want to make sure we don't have any public comments. We do not have any public comments. So colleagues, do we have any questions on this particular audit? Anyone? No? You guys? No? Okay, we have no questions. So may I, on behalf of the board, accept this audit? Okay, great. And I think you're doing the next one too, right?
Okay, the next one is major O parcel tax. This one is a small report. We basically is only look at the major O's, the revenue and expenditures. So when we look at the revenues, we do confirm with the counties how exactly the amounts of parcel, and we perform the calculation, and we didn't have any adjustments as a result to your financial statement. So the amount is correct. For expenditure part, now we issue the financial report, which is recorded properly, but we also issue a performance report, which we take into more further. We select the samples, we look at the teachers to see if it's according to your language, and all the procedures we perform is listed in the detail in the page 13. So if you are interested in what we actually do, it's very detailed listed it out. Of all the expenditures, 15.5 million we tested, almost 7 million, which is 45% of the total expenditures. We didn't find any exceptions. It's all spent according to the bond language, or the major O language. So any questions on this one?
Great. Still no comments? Nothing?
I wanted to speak on behalf of the committee.
Oh.
I don't know if we're on the list. There was a note are we permitted?
Which committee is this?
You know what? If we can just get you a speaker card, but come on up and you can speak to it. Is it the Bond Oversight Committee?
Yes.
Great.
Parcel tax, sorry. Parcel tax.
Oh, the Parcel Tax Committee. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
Measure up.
Sure, come on up and then let's just make sure we get you listed as a speaker.
Okay. So I just wanted to share from the letter, oops, is it closed? From the committee. I think it's important to note that while we agree with the results of the audit, that the money was spent in accordance, we do feel that we could improve the process for spending it more in the spirit of the measure as it was, as it was passed. Really specifically, the first item on the measure is to preserve academic excellence for all students with equity. And what we found was that 25% of the program goes to remedial education programs with none to other opportunities. The real focus has been on class size reduction and remedial education opportunities. And we feel that it's really important for support of this measure going forward, as we have asked in the past, to improve that and to make sure that more of those funds are spent touching students at all ranges of the academic spectrum.
Great, thank you so much. And I think there's a time during the year that we invite the committee.
Yeah, usually we have these committees come and report.
Yeah, I think I was sort of off on one of the emails, but it said we were presenting today, so I showed up. So.
Yes, you're welcome to come make a public comment now, that's fine.
And if we come back again, then I'll let someone else say it again. So.
I would say you're correct. We will come back, but this is also a totally appropriate time to comment, and we'll just make sure that we get your information. But
Yeah,
thank you.
say your name again.
Abby Domine.
Thank you very much to you and the other people on the committee.
Yeah,
It's our pleasure to serve, and I also want to say thank you to Carolyn and her office for being so supportive of the committee.
okay, yeah, just make sure you get your name and stuff in there. If there are no questions, I want to thank the committee for all their work and for those suggestions. I think that's really important to sort of keep front of mind as we continue to decide how to spend those dollars. And thank you so much to our auditor for doing the job. We also accept this one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Say again?
We do have the next item for the 2 bond audits.
Oh, for both, okay, great. Carry on.
Okay, carry on. Next one is the Major A. This is the early one. The Major A, we're still doing the same things has 2 reports included in this Major A. The first section is just financial statement of balance sheets and statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. We didn't propose any adjustments. The financial statement is presented fairly in all material respect. For the second report, we also have list out all the procedures we did. Mainly, it's just selected all the invoices and take a look at how they were spent and if they spent according to the language of Major A. And of all the expenditures, our sample included 7.6 million non-payroll transactions and 32,000 payroll transactions totaling 7.7 million. This represents 53% of total expenditures. We didn't have any exception noted. For Major Z, it's the same thing, it's a clean audit. This Major Z and Major A is all reported in the district's report in the building fund. But when we bring it out and separate report it, we usually drop the materiality and select more samples because it's the testing itself. And then we also didn't have any adjustments and proposed, we didn't find any exceptions as well. For the total, for this one, our sample included 8.8 million non-payroll transactions and 51,000 payroll transactions, totaling 8.9 million. This represents 53% of the total expenditures. It's a clean audit as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Yep.
Not so much a question as a comment. First, thanks for those audit reports, and it's always good that we have finding-less audits year after year, which I know not everybody does, which I think is a testimony to the strength of the staff and the processes and culture we've built up. 2 things. One is I do hope that we are able to bring both the partial tax and the bond oversight committee back to give some annual report. I think that's a good custom that maybe we didn't keep up fully during the pandemic, I can't recall. But I think it would be good to reestablish it just once a year because they do really important work and deserve the recognition. And I think we don't have any contact with those groups other than through their coming to the board. So I think it's very useful for them to come and have a time to shine. 2, and the reports are interesting. 2 is, I think regarding the bonds, I think President DiBrienza, this is something that you've raised in the past, and our bond rhythm has changed from what it was historically, and spending is going at a much faster pace. than it has in the past, which is, I think, and a number of things about the bond program, some of the underlying assumptions about both the market conditions and our assumptions about the way we have done projects have changed from the way they were with the first 10 years of the bond, from 2008 to 2018. So I think now that we're a few years into Measure Z, I think it would be really useful to have a item come to the board, and you're probably planning this, to give a general overview of where we are with the overall bond. I would characterize it as that Van Gogh painting, the past, present, and future of our bond program, with a special view of the present and the future, because I do think we're going to run out of bond funds at the current pace much faster than we did in the last bond, and that's going to raise a real question about, do we stop the bond program for a while and wait? Do we try to pass another bond much sooner than the 10 years that was the space between the last two bonds? So anyway, I think everybody on the board, I see a lot of heads nodding, and I'm sure everybody agrees. I think it's time. We haven't done that in probably since we passed the last bond in 2018. So I think it would be very timely and useful to have that kind of item.
I appreciate you saying that. We have been talking about doing that, and I think once the item is kind of put together, we'll know whether it's a regular board meeting item or whether it's a study session on its own. But that's exactly what the staff has been working on. So, agree. Any other comments? Okay, thank you so much for your work, and thank you to the staff. Moving right along, I think we are at our childcare item, 7C.
We are. I'm going to start briefly, and then I'm going to turn over to Ms. Conaway, who will introduce our speaker for tonight. Okay. Just a general statement about the ad hoc committees as a whole. They're doing exactly what we had hoped they were going to do. They've involved more people. They've involved people with different ways of looking at things. We've kept them on pace so that they're not never ending. We have posted the minutes of every meeting on our website, and pretty close to live time, we have posted the updates on our agendas, and we've communicated with people that could be impacted. I feel really good about that. And I think the athletics ad hoc, we didn't do necessarily a staff report, but it was on the agenda, and we have already moved money as a result of the recommendations of that ad hoc committee. This one, we wanted to do a report. Bell schedules will come as a report. Most will come as a report. But just in general, I want to thank the staff, our school board, parents, staff members from both associations for attending, engaging, and really doing some fantastic work on these committees. It is exactly one of the things that we were missing, and it really feels good to be able to bring things forward now. So, Ms. Conaway, why don't you take it from here, please?
Great, thank you, Dr. Austin. Before we begin, I really want to first thank Herb Espiritu and the committee members who put a tremendous amount of thought and heart into the recommendations that you're going to be hearing tonight. Our child care and enrichment programs continue and will continue to represent our belief that all students, regardless of their background, should have an opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in our care. So that's the premise of the work that we are trying to do here with our child care programs and our enrichment programs. And I really do want to emphasize all here. This belief is reflected in the work we did early on with our ELOT programs, and we understand very clearly that given the timelines that we had, we made some early moves, to start moving things along to meet the timelines required by the state. We were pressed in that particular area, and it made sense to us at the time to move along with a company that had already been vetted for ELOP services. So that program came in. We were able to not just develop a program at the last minute, but develop one that was high quality and served for free over 275 of our children in our district who may not have previously had services. So we're proud of that work. But also, as a result, we were able to learn a few things also in terms of how do we really effectively engage the community in a way that we can get buy-in and still accomplish our goals of ensuring that all students have access to care. So this time around, with some great forethought from our superintendent and our board, the ad hoc committee was formed to talk these needs through so that we can continue to make progress on what we saw earlier on in our efforts. The committee work has allowed us to really take a deeper exploration into our why. Why are we really doing this, and what are we really trying to accomplish? It allowed us to find common ground and common goals. And as a result of that, we had a committee, I think maybe of 14 people, that reached a consensus on what recommendations we would want to see in all of our childcare programs. We are fortunate to have 3 very high-quality programs in our district, and I see some of them out there, so I want to thank them for their efforts and the work of their teams as well. But the recommendations by this committee is just our starting point, so I want us to look at this as our baseline requirement. We will continue to make sure that our programs meet all of the state requirements and what we call the 10 tenets of a good, high-quality child care and enrichment program. So we accomplished more than most districts did in our first iteration of the ELOP. It's going to get better from here, and with the support of the ad hoc committee, we hope to have one of the top enrichment and child care programs in the state. To that end, I'll turn it over to Herb Espiritu.
All right, thank you for the introduction. I think we should finish there. No report needed. All right, so I'm here tonight as the representative of our child care committee. We met 4 times in the fall, so to all the committee members, thank you for spending some weeknights with me. First, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, where it started. California Ed Code Section 46120. It is the intent of the legislature that all local educational agencies, districts, offer all unduplicated pupils in classroom-based instructional programs access to comprehensive and after-school and intersessional expanded learning opportunities. So that's after school and for us, also summer days. The priority designation for our ELOP program here at Palo Alto Unified School District is that all students are eligible to participate in the program, regardless of demographics or income status. Some will attend under the regular programming option at full price, and qualifying students who fall in priority groups 1 and 2 below will have the opportunity to participate at no cost. Other designated groups may attend at no cost based on availability of funds and referral by a certificated staff member. Our priority 1 is English learners, foster youth, homeless students, and low-income grades TK through 6th. Priority 2, students identified under the Every Student's Read initiative, and special needs students who could benefit from the program. Just stating the charge of our committee, our charge was to identify components of child care programs that are essential for all vendors and report those recommendations to the Board of Education. I'd like to take this time to once again thank our committee members, our parents, elementary school principals that participated, our classified and certificated union members, our EL, our English language learner lead, district directors, family engagement specialists, and obviously the board members that were present. We engaged in a lot of good, thoughtful debate and discussion, and again, led to our recommendation here tonight. I do want to highlight some of the recommendations. The full report is on our website under Ad Hoc Child Care Committee. Just wanted, for time purposes, wanted to highlight the important recommendations that the committee discussed and would like to report to the board. The Ad Hoc Child Care Committee recommends PAUSD to work with our existing child care providers, namely Palo Alto Community Child Care, Kids Choice, and Right at School, to serve all families, including ELOP scholarship eligible children. I do want to note, in researching other neighboring districts in our area, we are, in terms of size, the only district that really have ELOP options at all elementary school sites currently. I think I want to highlight that because that speaks to the efforts of leadership in our district. Further recommendations, minimum child care license and/or criteria. The minimum requirement accepted will be under the California Department of Education Heritage School criteria. A child care license is also accepted. All providers must maintain full compliance with the requirements set forth by the district and CDE. Authority and monitoring. The committee recommends that the district oversee and review child care program plans yearly in accordance with the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Plan Guide. And for heritage schools who are not subject to regular state monitoring visits, that PAUSD will conduct unannounced site visits to oversee quality. Our committee also recommends that all Palo Alto Unified School District child care providers will have a minimum of 15% of their student spots at each elementary school site reserved for ELOP, scholarship eligible families, to somewhat guarantee or fully guarantee that there will be spots for those students in our programs. And lastly, I want to highlight students requiring additional supports and services that Palo Alto Unified School District Special Education Department and each specific child care provider will determine availability for students requiring additional support and or services based on reasonable accommodations for after-school child care. That is my report.
Thank you so much. And as a board member who was on that committee, I want to thank you and the whole committee, many of whom are here, for all of their work. It was a brief committee, but we did a lot of work. And as I'm sure you can all imagine, there were strong emotions and feelings and thoughts and priorities in the room. So thank you so much for that. We have 2 public comments. First, we have Nicole Chi Wong, and then we have Nancy Shepard. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening. I think it's wonderful and frankly about time that the state has required us to ensure qualifying kids get access to after-school care. With this requirement in mind and seeing the recommendations of the Child Care Committee and having spoken to many parents about their reasonable concerns about our after-school care providers, I want to stress the importance of ensuring the aftercare received by all qualifying students is high quality and on par with the quality of programming received by students whose families can afford the high monthly cost associated. And I want to say also I'm grateful that the committee has recommended that the district work with all 3, specifically PAC and Kids' Choice, in addition to Right at School. So I'm excited to see what happens as a result. And switching gears just briefly, I should have said this earlier, but as incoming co-president of the Chinese Parents Club, I would be remiss if I didn't invite you all and remind you to please attend on Saturday at Mitchell Park, the Lunar New Year Fair that will be held from 11:30 to 5. I hope to see many of you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Shepard.
Thank you for this time, and I want to just welcome your new board member, Siegel. Welcome to the grind. Hope you enjoy your term here. As you know, I'm former mayor of the city of Palo Alto, so I'm very proud of the programs that the city has put in place, one of which started back in 1969 with Palo Alto Community Child Care, when mothers came forward saying, we want to go back to work, but we want quality child care. And so we've kept that alignment all the way through, serving working families with high quality child care so that they could have the type of experience that they might have if their mothers weren't working. So that has been a continual thread, and it is such an impactful change to have the school district really dig in on this area of a child's education, which we do believe starts, at birth, but also does not stop at the end of the school year, at the end of the school time at 3:15. So thank you for taking that on and taking this more seriously and thinking about it more critically. The policy as it stands, Herb, looks good to us. We can manage with this. We can expand into classrooms if you need us to. As you know, we have a good list of substitute teachers that all qualify. We love your high standards for staff here because that really is critical for being able to have some of these results. And so we look forward to partnering with you on this. We also noticed that licensing is, of course, we are completely licensed for all of our programs. That's a requirement to take on the subsidy programs that the city gives us. We get a lot of money from the city, but also from the school district. That's a requirement for the subsidy programs. And we are in close communication with the CDE on their standards. So thank you very much for this. Appreciate the work and the deep dive. Bye.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, do you have questions or comments? Ms. Siegel?
I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
First, I wanted to thank you Herb Espiritu, and committee members for your hard work and time in creating these essential components of childcare programs. I also was pleased to see the recommendation to support all 3 existing programs, the priority designation, high standards for staff, and the minimum of 15% reserved for ELOP and scholarship. I just have a couple questions going through all the documents. Yeah, there's a lot. So PAUSD requires providers to serve grades TK through 6. TK is going to be open to all 4-year-olds in just a few years. Very excited about that. And will no longer meet the minimum heritage school age requirement because that's 4 years, 9 months. So like in that situation, how do we proceed? That's one of my questions.
Mr. Spiritu?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the anticipated age requirements moving from February to April, we understand that'll be there, and it'll be a requirement that's different that we didn't have this year. That's why it's nice to have 3 providers to work with. It gives us those options.
Okay. Okay, another question I had was the recommendation state PAUSD will do unannounced site visits to oversee quality as there's no heritage school license. Do we know, or like how frequently does this create any liability for PAUSD? You provided a link in that document. So the requirements of a heritage school includes things like, and I'm reading from the link, offering education or academic tutoring in a foreign language, offer education on the culture, traditions, or history of a country other than the U.S., offer culturally enriching activities, including but not limited to art, dancing, games, or singing, based on the culture or customs of a country other than the U.S., and maintain membership in a state or national cultural or language program. So my question is that something that PAUSD is now overseeing? How does this work? Is there liability? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, as the committee recommended, that supervision and unannounced visits is something that we are going to be taking on if the board accepts those recommendations from the Child Care Committee. That will be the additional oversight that the committee recommended.
Okay, so PAUSD will ensure that a provider a heritage school is providing the heritage school definition, that list. Because that was a long list.
Yes, that they meet all those criteria, yes.
Okay.
I think that now that because of the ELOP program, and we now have a role in this after-school situation. So if we have an agreement with an after-school program, we now have an obligation to make sure it is of that caliber.
And if I may add, it's spelled out in our ELOP program. Each year we'll be required to make a plan. So those elements will also be included in there.
That will be included in the ELOP.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Great. Mr. Sharp? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, on the same topic, maybe, and I don't think this is a profound issue, and we can go into it sometime later if necessary. I'm just confused by the heritage school thing, because I mean, PACCC and Right at School. I mean, these are 3 existing programs. None of them are, to my understanding, heritage schools, which are like Chinese Saturday school or German school, or I mean, that's what's traditionally been covered under heritage schools. I didn't think, if the idea is that these are going to become heritage schools and are going to change their stripes and become something different than they are, I guess I'm interested in that. That wasn't what I thought was being proposed, but I was confused by your answer to Trustee Siegel because it made it sound like maybe it was. Can you clarify how these existing programs, how this heritage school criteria is going to be applied to these existing programs?
It's going to be applied based on the criteria that defines heritage school. The reason why it's problematic, I mean, Right at School can certainly produce a child care license, but it does open a challenge for districts trying to serve all families and all students, because a child care license require a dedicated space. And if we are serving the number that we are projecting, that's just not feasible at the sites.
Let me just clarify. I don't care. I understand you didn't want everybody to have a child care license. So you were looking for some other set of criteria to apply. The question is how does this heritage school criteria apply to programs that aren't heritage schools? I mean,
Right, thanks for that question.
Yeah.
Actually, our Right at School is currently identified under the Heritage School criteria. So that's the way they're operating right now. It's under,
can you say that again? I didn't.
the Right at School is currently operating under Heritage School criteria.
And maybe it helps if I say that I believe the other two are fully licensed, and that is a step up from a heritage school. So everyone
Let me just understand. So how a heritage school traditionally is, and I just read the CDE page on them. I mean, these are, again, as the name implies, if you want your kid to learn Hindi on Saturday, you send them to a heritage school. If you want to learn Hebrew, you send them to a heritage school. That's not my understanding of what Right in School does.
So let me clarify how
Yeah.
the state looks at this. Given the demand, they've opened up opportunities for organizations and vendors to apply under the Heritage School so that we can ensure that there's childcare available and accessible for school districts. That was one of their steps to make sure that they're increasing the opportunity for access.
So the state, so trying to interpret this through the fog of regulatory war, is the state in an effort to, the state probably didn't want to create a new set of criteria to enable these new programs. And some clever bureaucrat said, well, we've got these heritage school things, and can't we just call them, and they watch after kids and they seem to be okay. So can't we call these new programs heritage programs and simplify things? So the only question I have is, as Trustee Siegel mentioned, in the heritage school criteria, it talks about culture and foreign language and all this stuff. Is that to become part and parcel of all these programs?
And it is it's a part of Right at School right now because it's required by the criteria that they are certified under.
So what foreign language, they offer foreign language instruction?
It's actually sign language, ASL.
ASL.
Yes.
So is this, let's try to be candid here. Is this like a hack?
It is a way, there might be a little bit of bureaucracy around that, but it's a way to just ensure access. So they open up avenues and open up doors so that we can ensure that even in the absence of the strict criteria for some programs, we can still ensure that students have access to the care.
Because it makes sense to me. These heritage schools do the things that we want after-school programs to do. They have kids come, they supervise them, they provide enrichment stuff. It all makes sense that this would apply to that, but it's just weird because these are sort of heritage schools more in form than in substance.
Yes, and just so that you know, for us, heritage school or not, we are still looking at some very explicit criteria for our programs that are going to be aligned with all the other programs that are there, with the exception of the licensing requirement.
Okay, and then just to clarify, and I think you just said this, but let me just make, just for understanding. So the other two programs, what's the one at Nixon called?
Kids' Choice.
Kids' Choice and PACCC, are licensed. And the way our criteria are set up is that you can be heritage school or licensed?
Correct.
Licensed being a higher form of
Exactly.
oversight or whatever. Is that?
Right. And I want to specify that it's a higher form of state oversight, but that does not speak to the level of quality that's coming from each program. So that's something that we're going to be monitoring.
And just really quickly, is Right at School currently registered as a heritage school? Because I tried to look that up today, and I saw a bunch of, for this county, and I didn't see, that doesn't mean I looked it up correctly, but I didn't see Right at School, and so, but I saw a lot of other, like Safari Kids in different places, so can you tell me how?
They are, and just to let you know, there's a group of people that come out to actually observe the space and observe the quality of the program. They thoroughly review the program, so if there is some level of oversight for them to obtain the Heritage School designation.
And where can I just find that they're registered?
I am not aware, but I can definitely find that out for you.
Okay, I just wanted,
Just a question that came up. So if the state is the one that exercises oversight over the heritage licensing and sends folks out, then why are we taking a role in ensuring that they meet the heritage requirement? I understand that our role is to make sure they meet our requirements, but why are we taking a role to make sure they meet the heritage requirements as well?
No, we're not. Our role is to make sure that we're measuring quality under the specific tenets required by all state programs for enrichment.
Got it.
Unlike the regular license program, they have a high degree of oversight, and I see Lee, she'll be there to tell you there's lots of paperwork and lots of forms that have to be filled out that fortunately our heritage schools won't necessarily have to do, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we have eyes on those programs to make sure the same level of quality is coming from those programs.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Latimer.
Yeah, you know, I have had a bunch of comments, and they're so related to this discussion because sort of my major comment was first to say thank you for all the work that the committee did and for giving us the opportunity to talk about this in public, because I actually think this is a very, very long overdue public conversation. And I think the state has figured out now, because of COVID, that this is a long overdue public conversation. And so it's not a surprise that everyone has sort of been scrambling to figure out what's going on, because, you know, the board has rarely, if ever, been involved with discussions about after-school care, because historically, from the state down, that's just not been seen as part of the core mission or responsibility of public school districts. Well, and then COVID happened, and for families who didn't have the privilege to work at home or could not afford and find childcare, school closures were not just challenging and at times untenable, like they were for all of us. They were literally impossible. And PAUSD was suddenly confronted with this crisis of hundreds of students who were completely unable to access their educations. And so, like, sometimes what seemed like everything during the pandemic, responsibility for providing those kids with a safe, supervised place to learn fell by default to public schools. And, you know, the process of figuring out how to do that wasn't perfect. It was messy and it was chaotic, and public health guidance kept changing every minute, it seemed like, and everything had to happen yesterday because children were at stake. And to their immense credit, I think, Dr. Austin, you and your staff, you guys figured this out. And you made it happen, not just for a few months in 2020, let's remember. It was an entire academic year of hybrid learning where these kids needed a place to learn. And so that was the backdrop for staff changing our long-standing relationship with after-school providers. And those changes were, I think this has gotten lost in a lot of the conversation. Those changes were 100% an effort to make after-school care accessible to all PAUSD families, regardless of economic status. That's what it was about. Ms. Conway, you referenced in your remarks, I think we would all agree, communication with existing families and after-school care was, to understate the point, not totally effective. Families were frustrated and confused and upset and worried about the future. And that's why we formed the committee in large part, because we recognized that we needed a more collaborative process and more thoughtful approach to problem solving this, because this was a brand new problem. And I don't mean to say those families were brand new. They'd been there all along. And the only reason this item is before the board right now is because, you know, the after-school care programs that we had so many families stand up and speak so eloquently about to us, those after-school care programs basically weren't available to hundreds of our families because they couldn't afford it. And nobody here, certainly not me, wants to disrupt care that any of our families depend on, and we don't want to lose providers that are so clearly beloved in our community. But I think the uncomfortable truth is that this district over the years has facilitated a system, both financially and logistically, by omission and commission, I will say, that is basically off limits to way too many of our families because they can't afford it. And to me, this flies directly in the face of what it means to be a public school district. and I do want to take a minute here and say, I want to be very clear, this is our failure. Maybe not our failure, but boards that have come before us. This is not because of PAC or Kids' Choice. They are organizations. They're private organizations. They are not public school districts. They are trying to offer an incredibly valuable service that already costs them more to provide than the marketplace thinks it should or is willing to pay. I own a small remodeling company. I'm totally empathetic to that. If we want after-school care providers to accept more low-wealth families, it's up to us. We have to make that happen. And so that's why we're here today. That's what the committee was about. I'm really grateful to the committee. I think your recommendations are thoughtful and comprehensive, and I think they set us on the right path. But all of these questions that are coming up about Heritage School and ELOP, yeah, right? Like I think you said it's a hack. Yeah, because I think the state was like, oh God, we have now recognized that somebody said the school day, I think Nancy Shepard said, the school day kids don't stop learning and they don't stop having needs to learn when the last bell rings. And so school districts do need to take this on. So the state realized, oh, we need you to take this on, but there aren't enough providers for you to do this. So we're all kind of in this together now. That's why we had this committee. Thank you to our community for being patient. We recognize this was not, it was in the best efforts to serve families, but the impact of it was very disruptive to a lot of other families. And, you know, we need to own that. But we're here now, so thank you very much to the committee. I have a couple questions. One that I think I know the answer to. The 15% requirement, it's 15% of total kids enrolled, right? So it's not 15% of your full pay families. So like if you have 100 kids, 85 are full pay and 15 are ELOP. Is that right?
Yeah, we got that 15% number as a minimum of expected students that would be eligible under the priority standard designation that we have. And we wanted to make sure that we had providers ready to accommodate that.
So it's 15% of total students served.
Total students served, because every school can vary in terms of eligible families, students and families at those particular schools. Right. Some schools will be bigger than the 15%, and hopefully, I can work with the 3 providers that we have in accommodating students at the impacted schools.
Okay, so my second question is, and this may be kind of more for my colleagues to just make sure we sort of know, I guess, what we're being presented with. I looked at the minutes from I think it was the October 18th meeting, and there was some data regarding current enrollment. And so it looked like we had 756 eligible families. PAC had 561 paid students, 54 were financial aid, which if I did my math right, is about 8.8% of total students. Right at School had 180 paid, 215 financial aid, which was 54.4% of total students. And then Kids' Choice had 87 total kids, 0% financial aid. So I was just sort of saying, okay, if we assume the total number of students remains the same next year and we apply this 15% requirement, then the breakdown I get is Right at School would end up with 59 ELOP students, which is a decrease of 156 students. PAC would end up with 92 ELOP students, which is an increase of 38. And Kids' Choice would end up with 13, which is an increase of 13. So then this would be a net decrease of 105 ELOP students served.
That's if our numbers stay the same.
If our numbers stay the same.
Yeah, our hope is that
and if everybody sticks at 15%, which obviously we're hoping they go higher, but we can't make them go higher, because I just want to say again, it's really expensive to provide care, and ELOP funds and whatever else we're supporting.
Yeah, that's why we didn't think that one provider can absorb all of our ELOP scholarship eligible families, because they wouldn't be able to stay in business.
Exactly. So I like the recommendations that you guys came up with, and I think we should proceed, but I sort of would like to ask, can we have a report in the fall? I'd like to look at enrollment, because I'm okay with this now, but if we lose 100 kids, I'm probably not going to be okay with it anymore.
Well, we're hoping that our student enrollment for ELOP doubles of what we have now.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I don't know where you're going to put them all, which is another one of my questions. I'm hoping you'll get to that. Because, we heard a lot about a lot of the concern we heard from parents in the community was PAC and maybe not Kids' Choice, I think Kids' Choice, PAC and Kids' Choice, because of the licensing requirements, they can't be in our classrooms. And so they've got the portables, but they can't really expand. And so the expansion that I see is right at school, which means they're gonna end up with 54% of ELOP kids again. I just don't know how, well, how they afford it is their own business. But to the equity piece and the fact that when you have programs that are stocked with kids from affluent, powerful families who are not afraid to complain when, you know, people looking after their kids are on their cell phones, right? Those programs those parents get what they want. And when you have programs that are stocked with parents who are just grateful that their kids have care, that pressure isn't on. So this isn't, I don't want to set up a system where we've got all our kids, as you said, in one program, and I don't see how the space works out. But I trust that you guys are gonna go forth and negotiate, and could you come back to us maybe in June with what this looks like?
Maybe not in June, maybe in September.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine, whenever you can do it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what capacity looks like and what enrollment looks like.
I also just want to add, one of the questions I was asking about heritage schools is because what I was wanting to understand is if PAC could expand, right, and to use one of the classrooms, right, they can't use their current license. And so would they have to fall under heritage school requirements in order to expand into classrooms if classrooms are available? So that was kind of why I was trying to understand, how does PAC expand if they want to and are able to expand, which is what I've heard. Will they be able to work with the city or work with the county to get that approval, or are they gonna have to fall under heritage school and then have all the heritage school requirements? So I'm just trying to understand all that, because I also would like.
We're lucky that's not our job.
Yes, that is not our job, but I just wanted to understand how this happens with the current heritage school requirements. So
now is one of those times that I'm really grateful that I was on the committee, because I sort of like understand this really, really well, I think at this point. And like you said, you're posing a bunch of questions that I think over the next few months, staff's gonna work hard to answer. I think I am correct in saying that just because they need dedicated space doesn't mean it has to actually be a portable. If there's a spare room in a campus of declining enrollment that we decide we wanna dedicate to after-school care, we can. But of course, then that limits flex rooms and whatever else. So I think there's a lot of things that staff is going to be working out in the next couple months to try to figure it out. So this doesn't require any action on our part, but you have not gone. You went at the beginning, but
I want to go, yeah.
you're great.
Yeah.
And I have another question when he's done.
Why don't you just finish?
Okay, I'll finish. My question was about funding. There was a $310,000 figure quoted, and again, this goes back to my 15% question. How are we getting that money? Is it based on an estimated, first of all, what is that money? And is it based on an estimated 15% of total kids, or is it based on our numbers last year, which was a lot more than 15%? So, yeah, could you talk to me about that money?
Yeah, so the 15% number is our unduplicated students number, TK through 6th. If we were all to enroll them in ELOP, then there is a gap with the funds that the state gives us. And that's the amount we have to supplement so that we can meet the $2,500 per ELOP student that we've arranged with
So the $310,000 just gets us to the $2,500 per student. It
if
doesn't
all
give more.
if all students are enrolled.
If all students enroll. So nobody's ever getting more than $2,500 per kid.
Not per kid,
$2,500 per kid.
Yeah. Yeah, if the September report has all 15% of our ELOP students who are eligible enrolled, that would be a good problem to have.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And that would be $310,000?
Yes.
Okay.
That we're already,
So that's the max.
yeah, committing if we are to enroll all of the eligible students and
But
families.
we're not expecting to get there next year.
My hope is 500, double what we have right now.
Right.
If we get to 750, again, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if we're able to accommodate them with our 3 vendors and all of our school spaces, again, those are all good problems to have. But that is the anticipated cost for us because the state hasn't given us enough funds to fully serve our ELOP students.
Okay. Mr. Collins, are you still?
I was just going to say, these are the people that hired all the mental health technicians, so if anybody can do it, you can do it.
We trust our staff. Mr. Collins.
I wanted to say thank you to Trustee Lettermerick for kind of framing this issue up so well, because I do think it is a fundamentally different framing than what we've had historically. And, I think that caught all of us unawares last year, and when this became a controversial item, I certainly had never dealt with it before, never heard about it, and didn't understand what actually the dynamic was in place, and I appreciate your somewhat lengthy summary of it. But valuable, because I think it is a different framing, and I think a very important one. And to that end, I just want to underscore two things that Trustee Lettermerick mentioned. One is that I do think a metric for success in this initiative now is the number of, we can't just call them ELOP students, but priority students. The number of priorities, let's call them priority students, because they were priority 1 and priority 2 on your presentation. The number of priority students that are served by these programs, and that's one of, maybe not the only metric that we should look at, but certainly one of the very important ones. Related to that, the system we have now is essentially a segregated system, where almost all of the priority students are with one provider, and the other providers serve very few. That's not while the system that's proposed with this 15% minimum potentially will accomplish some integration of those priority students with the other students, it doesn't mean that we won't have one program that doesn't have the lion's share of the students still. To me, that would not be a healthy long-term system. That's not the system I want to be on the board of. So it would be, and since we're really at the start of this, now's the time to dig in and make the hard structural choices to make it so it isn't like that, even if it causes some pain and discomfort, because the pain and discomfort only gets harder as these systems cement into place. So let's keep in mind that having a two-tier system is not what we're trying to design here. And to that end, again, Trustee Lettermerick asked for this. Definitely we need a report in the fall, because that will tell us how this all sorted out. So, Dr. Austin, I'm counting on that and the agenda setting committee. But I also would like to hear about this in May or June, because I don't know how you guys are going to pull it off. This seems really hard. So I think some kind of update in May or June that says, let's give you an update on how this thing is settling out, because I know for sure there are going to be moving parts in this, because I can't see how it all comes together. And I can't, so I'm going to bring some popcorn and listen to this one, because it's going to be fun. So I really hope that we're able to do that kind of update.
Go forth and work miracles.
Yeah.
And with our partners as well.
But thank you. I think this has been a fascinating discussion. I've been involved with things in the district for more than 10 years now, and there aren't many topics that come up that are genuinely new. And this is one, and one I think is a very productive and healthy one. So thank you for bringing it forward and moving the ball.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Student board members, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. I've got a few. I think that the combination of Ms. Shepherd and Ms. Lettermerick really summarizing the history of this issue is really helpful to realize it. I was not here 40 years ago when all this really started going down, but parents were asking the school district to have a role in childcare, and the school district, without a doubt, which was very common at the time, was, that's not on us. We're in charge of you till 3 o'clock, and then we're not in charge of you anymore. So that set up a system that is fundamentally different than the way we understand education and equity now. So it is something that, in hindsight, I think we could have expected was going to be a sort of a big clash of ideas and a clash of priorities. But we didn't. We were trying to reopen schools, and there was other things going on. But I really appreciate your sort of summary, I guess, of it. And I am very grateful that we landed on an ad hoc committee to do this work. As I said, the meetings had strong feelings and people that have very different perspectives and that are parts of different programs and principals that work at schools that have multiple programs. And it was really useful to think about how do we keep and acknowledge and celebrate the great work that has long been done, and yet make this a more equitable system, not only because it's what's right, but because it's now what the state requires of us. So I'm really grateful for where we've landed so far. You definitely have a heavy lift in front of you, but my money's on you. I'll just state again that other providers who are not on campus have expressed interest, right? Like the JCC comes and takes a van and takes kids away to their campus, and they've expressed interest in doing this too. And the Boys and Girls Club may, or, you know, the East Palo Alto Tennis and Tutoring, and, you know, there's all kinds of providers that we may be able to partner with in the future if we need more providers, if we run out of space and they operate at other spaces. So I think that just being really creative and thinking outside the box could allow us to continue to grow this. And as Mr. Collins said, in an equitable way, so that one organization is not bearing the brunt or becoming some sort of second-class citizen. So thank you for all the work. Thank you to the committee. I really enjoyed serving with you. Thank you, Mr. Spiritu and Ms. Conway. And we look forward to, agenda setting will take up this issue of when does it make sense to next come back based on when you'll have enrollment and numbers and contracts with each group. And we'll bring it ahead. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And next up, we are on to our information items. As a reminder, our information items, we don't talk about one item at a time. It's just if any board member or any community member wants to comment on any of them, we'll bring them up. Otherwise, they are here for exactly as they say, information, so that the community and the board knows what's going on with all of this work. So any, no? Okay, great. So let's go on to board operations. Usually we start at this end. Do you have any board operations, any updates or information? No pressure?
Just, I had the pleasure of visiting Nixon, and this past week or last week when it was really, really rainy, and even in a downpour, I'm just so grateful. I wanted to thank Amy Sheward and all the teachers and staff at Nixon for welcoming me into their classrooms. I remember as a teacher, whenever somebody comes into your classroom, it's like, but what I saw whenever I walked into classrooms was students engaged, students listening, teachers passionate, teachers happy, joy learning. I was just so grateful to be part of that experience and grateful for Amy Sheward for taking the time. And just yesterday, I also had the pleasure of attending Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service in collaboration with the Mental Health Art Show. This was a collaboration with the City of Palo Alto, Youth Community Services, Oshman Family JCC, East Palo Alto, and I want to acknowledge all of those who volunteered and the students from Palo Alto and East Palo Alto who inspired me with their art. There was dance, there was spoken word poetry. My kids loved the spoken word poetry because they'd never seen that before, and it was new and it was fascinating, and music. And I just felt really grateful to be part of this. And I want a big shout out to YCS and Maura who helped organize it. It was a great community building event. And what I also really loved was the collaboration between Palo Alto and East Palo Alto. And I want to further that collaboration as a school district.
Okay. Mr. Hart. No operations. Okay, great. I am really looking forward to this Saturday, as Ms. Chu Wong mentioned, the Lunar New Year celebration down at Mitchell. Can't wait to participate in that. And I was going to, I still will, wanted to recognize the MOT department and all their work over break. As I was visiting family and having holiday time, we were getting updates from Dr. Austin about, well, they're over at Duvenack and they got sandbags and they're checking for leaks and they're mitigating this and that. I was like, did they get any days off? I don't even know. So I'm really, really grateful for all their work. As you said, not only dealing with problems, but anticipating them and preventing many of them. And also just wanted to briefly thank and acknowledge all of the staff at JLS for last week. You know, there was a scare and there's a lot going on. And as always, our staff continued to teach in the most professional manner and kept kids busy and interested and not worried. And our admin did what they had to do to deal with the situation and make sure everyone was safe. And they partnered with the PAPD, which is another thank you. I guess the first time I'm thanking folks that aren't our own staff. PAPD did an amazing job in making sure that that whole situation was resolved without incident. But I really am grateful to the entire JLS community for their quick work, their calm work, and making sure, prioritizing the safety of staff and students.
My board operations are, I am on 3 of our ad hoc committees right now. And last week, after a long break, was it last week that was the first week of school last week? Yeah, it was like I had 3, I think I was supposed to be at the district office for 6 hours at one point. It was like 3 meetings, 2 of them overlapped. But as much work as it is, I'm so grateful for the ad hoc committees. So Dr. Austin, maybe this is a shout out to you of just putting them together, having the courage to do it. I think having that many committees with parents and staff and students is a lot. And all these planes have to be landed at the same time. I want to call out today Katie Bimpson, because she's rocking the enrollment committee. It's really, she's doing a really good job. So yeah.
Okay, great. Well, then this meeting is adjourned.